I'm doing some recruitment potentially for JPL slash NASA for colleges potentially in the next month. So it got me to thinking about my own journey with Smash and how I landed my job. And I actually leveraged a lot of what I've learned through Smash and some of the things I've done in Smash to really pitch why I would be a good candidate for working at NASA. So, just to give a quick recap, I interviewed for the job about 2 years ago. And in the first interview, I had a very nice lady who ended up being my group supervisor. And the first couple questions she gave me were really behavioral based, like what do you see yourself doing in 5 years? What's it like to be a student? What's something cool that you learned? And then later on, she transitioned into a question of, so it seems like you're really busy, Daniel. How do you really unwind from school and work and all of that? And so this was my opportunity, as Daniel Lee to really present another side of me. So I kind of felt it out, and I said, I go enter gaming competitions where I get to play with people across the world. And right then and there, I knew that that piqued some sort of interest in her to say, like, okay, like, tell me more about that. That is very interesting. So I went along with it, and I mentioned that I go to gaming tournaments a couple times a year where I get to play and meet people who play the same game from other countries, whether it's Japan, Europe, Canada, Mexico, or people from all across the U.S. And then I also mentioned from there, because it got her thinking, and she was really intrigued. I began to sell it a little bit more, and I said, "Yeah, I'm about a top 100 player in the world, but not only that, I also organize and run events." So back in those days, I used to do tournament organization for NorCal, and so I pitched that because what I was applying for was quality assurance engineering, and a lot of that focuses on process improvement. So I went along and told her, yeah, I started doing tournaments because there was a need in the community. So I figured, like, why don't I go ahead and start this initiative? And I went through a journey of how I improved the tournament experience over time, and how we grew in player growth, and how people really enjoyed the events. And so after talking about the majority of the interview about in regards to Smash, I actually got a second interview. And in the second interview, I got the pitch to more management, like, what was an extracurricular activity that rounds you out? And I answered that in the same vein. I answered and I talked about Smash, but I didn't really say, like, talk about the game itself. I didn't really talk about, like, why it's complicated or why it's interesting, but I really talked about it in terms of skill sets and interactions that I've learned through being involved in the community. And people really loved it. They saw that I brought a little bit more diversity to the group that I was applying for, and I eventually got the job. So just to recap, I really do believe in our modern era. It's for the most part, I think it's okay to actually present Smash in a way that could actually be used to sell yourself or to position yourself higher and give yourself some leverage. I believe that the stigma of video gaming is slowly deteriorating, but ultimately there are some companies that will frown upon the image of a gamer. So if you're, like, applying to a big four or big five accounting firm, I would probably not bring it up. But there are a lot of progressive companies, especially if you enter tech, where it actually brings a little bit of flavor to it. So here's how you can pitch some of the things that you've learned through playing Smash. So if you're a tournament organizer, really frame your sentences in a way that they implicitly learn about your skill set. So when I say, for example, there was a need in the area, so I decided to start tournaments, and so I went and found a venue and I started creating these events. Right then and there, those 3 to 4 sentences right there will tell my recruiter or the person interviewing me, A, I take initiative, B, I'm a problem solver, and C, I'm a leader. Just from those lines. I don't say that I'm a hard worker, that I'm a leader, that I'm a self-initiator, but through those 3 to 4 lines, I'm really selling the idea that I'm willing to take on problems and solve them. And then in my particular job, they want to look at process improvement. So the way I pitch that I'm good at improving processes is I looked and said, hey, at the end of every tournament, I ask for feedback from new players and veterans, and I say to them, like, okay, like, what could have been done better? Or what could have been done better in terms of logistics, in terms of finishing the events even faster so that people can leave earlier, or maybe we can even, have more setups used for friendlies throughout the day. And so I explained, I experimented with different types of formats. I was very clear on expectations in terms of disqualifying people and making sure that people come on time. And so I talked about a lot of things to improve the experience for everybody. And overall, what that told the recruiters, for me, from telling that story is I listen for feedback. I'm humble enough to not be stubborn. And B, I constantly look to improve the process. And C, I'm really good at customer service and working with people. And these are things that people are looking for when you're applying for jobs. And overall, even me just saying that I'm playing with people from all across the world, that I love hearing about experiences and other people's stories through the game, really shows that I have multi dimensions. I'm willing to become friends with people that may have a different background from me. And so, just from the hard skill standpoint of just selling yourself, there are a lot of great points that you can really bring up. If you're a TO, you're a content creator, you help out with pools, you run streams. There's just so many things that you can sell about yourself through Smash. Even if you're a player, it's a little bit of a tougher sell, but you can tell about the experiences of, maybe if you're like a really good player in your community, you can talk about your journey to becoming the best, where you sell the idea of you saw some weaknesses, you had the drive, you have a goal, and you're working towards that goal. So that's a way that you could sell that. Now, overall, maybe you're not so involved in helping out with the logistics of a tournament, but even then and there, you can actually improve so much about yourself as a person by going to Smash tournaments. So maybe like you're not quite at that age where you're applying for a big job, but the Smash community is also the perfect opportunity to hone soft skills. And what I mean is like the communication and the relationships that you have. So granted, like working at NASA, you need the engineering and the hard skills, but to be hired, they want to really see that you can work with people. And I know that a lot of Smashers are really shy or introverted, or they don't really want to connect. But Smashers are probably the most non-judgmental people, and this is your opportunity to really work on meeting new people and becoming friends with them. It doesn't mean that you have to be best friends, but to be friends to the point where you can carry a conversation without sounding awkward or weird. You can also learn, even if you want to do commentary, do other things, you're learning how to present to people better. Or if you want to do content creation, even the Tafo talks that I'm doing now have improved my presentation skills, and it's improved my communication a lot. And I actually use this to help myself, get better at performing, at work when I have to give a big presentation. So there's a lot of things that you can carry over from, what you learn in Smash into the real world. Even just the idea of performing on the big stage or performing under nerves, that's something that's actually really important to learn, because when you're at work, you're going to have high stressful situations where everything's not going to be really nice, and you're going to have to learn how to overcome it. So overall, I hope that you begin to utilize some of the things you've learned through the Smash community, and especially if you've served your time, you've volunteered, you run pools, you TO, you help run the stream, you help manage the stream. These are all big responsibilities that are easily transferable and easily sellable to recruiters to really say that you're a kick-ass person. So I hope that you guys really use that, especially when you are applying for real world jobs.